We are now recording. If you have anything to say that's not personal that we are recording right now, please unmute yourself and say it because I am not able to see the chat while I am sharing. So, hello everyone. My name is Sharon D. Perry. I'm the CEO and founder of Your Worth It Foundation, Inc. And we teach what not only are we a ministry and minister to people spiritually, but we also teach basic biblical saving and investing. We only teach the basics because, like I have here, I am not a certified financial advisor. However, I have been through the life of hard knocks and learned the hard way while being homeless, four people, two dogs, and a turtle. In a vehicle, I started saving with 8 cents, and I was able to save over $10,000 still while homeless. So, we are going to be covering the power of compound interest. Okay, and we are going to cover some of these highlights: the growth over time, early investment advantage when you start investing earlier, frequency of compounding, doubling time, impact of interest rates, and long term financial planning. We're also covering the principles of compound interest, the balance upon which interest is paid, simple interest, interest paid on the original investment, and compound interest. All right, and these are the basic layout, right, of saving and having your money work for you. Okay. When we cover growth over time, okay, we're going to cover the basic of compound interest and the acceleration of growth, right, compared to simple interest, okay, and how it is accrued over time, leading to faster increase, right? So with simple interest, okay, this interest here, and you're going to get the PowerPoints and the recording is going to be on YouTube so you can go over it. Um, the simple interest, for example, is like your initial mortgage balance, right? The amount that is owed on your mortgage or account that won't grow over time on previous interest paid. Okay, so right here it shows the result of the interest growth is slow in contrast to compound interest grows faster. Now, when I talk about mortgage balance, of course, it does not take into account, right? Homeowners insurance, it does not take into account taxes, right? Because taxes are based on the fair market value. I know I'm getting into the housing part that I'm doing at the end, but it's important for you to understand the difference here, right? So there, as it pertains to mortgage, right? There are other factors that will increase your mortgage payment that does not take into consideration with simple interest. All right. So right here, we have an example. Someone has a mortgage of 100K, okay, or 100,000, and the interest rate for you is 5%, right? The interest earned by the bank or lender is also 5%. Okay. And if the lender calculates your annual interest, right, by using compound interest formula, you would have to pay 105, right, after the year, and 110 after the second year, and so on. If you had to pay simple interest, right, on the mortgage, you would only need to pay 110 after 2 years. So this is talking about the initial amount, or in this case of a mortgage, the principal amount. right? As it pertains to a bank account, your initial investment or saving into that account, whatever you name that account as. So that is simple interest. Now, when it comes to compound interest and simple interest, the earlier, mostly compound, that you start saving, the better it is because it's the length of time inside this account to gain money on your monies, right? So we're going to talk about investing early and the frequency of compounding, right? When compounding, we are going to look at when we put money into accounts, is it yearly? Is it monthly? Or is it daily? Right? So when you open an account, all right, whatever kind of account this is that you're opening, and it is an interest bearing account, you are going to look to see if it is compounding again yearly, monthly, or even daily, because that difference affects the growth of your monies in that said account. Okay, so compounding interest adds interest that's paid back into your remaining loan balance. For example, right, you put in $1 into your account, right, and you are getting interest on the account. And let's say that the interest is 4 cents. Now, if you take out that 4 cents, right, and you move it to a different account, it's going to take extremely longer for the money to increase because you are taking out the interest that you were given. For example, one of my accounts, this is not a bank account per se. One of my accounts is a market account. It's in the market. And the way how I set up this specific account here, when interest or dividends in the stock market, when dividends, right, when the company that I invested in has a profit and they share out the profit to their shareholders, right? And the dividend, which is given to you in the form of dividend, and it goes into your portfolio, right? And a portfolio is the stocks that you hold in the account. Okay. So once the dividend is given into your portfolio, you will find that for me specifically at this point in time, I prefer the dividends to be reinvested into the account because I know sometimes we want that money to do other things. However, the once you understand the basics, the foundation of savings, that's why we cover it over and over and over and over. You will understand how to allocate your monies for daily spending, how to allocate your monies for emergency funds, how to allocate your money for savings, how to allocate your money for large purchases, how to allocate monies for home buying, and you won't have to immediately go into your market account, right? So the way how I have it set up, and again, let me just say, I'm not a financial advisor. However, I had to start from the bottom. And from experience, I'm telling you the way how you can help yourself to move forward in life, to make sure you understand how to separate. Let me just, this is a side note. Please separate your monies. If you came from a line of generational poverty and you don't have a good habit of managing money, even businesses, large multi-million dollar businesses separate accounts, right? They have accounts for payroll, they have accounts for taxes, they have their company's savings. I mean, even large businesses separate their monies. So I am begging you, please separate your monies, because once you are learning better habits and better principles, it is very challenging for you to have all your money in one account and say, I'm only going to spend this said amount of money and not touch the rest of the monies. Because in life, there's always going to be something for you to have to use the money for. And you want to make sure you have that hard stop so you do not go overboard. Okay, so we have this right here as it pertains to compound interest, right? As a mortgage. And as a mortgage, we know it as amortization schedule. That's what it's called for a mortgage, right? And this is helping everyone get ready for the home ready courses that we're going to be doing, which is very in depth and can be very overwhelming. That's why it's separated in so many series, because it's intense. um because we don't only want you to purchase a home, we want you to stay in that home, because right now foreclosure rates are getting out of hand. It's getting crazy, and we don't want people who have been through your Worth It Foundation women's ministry courses to be in that position. Okay, so with this example, we're having a mortgage here or savings with $100,000 earning interest rate of 5%. And what we have the breakdown here, these are years right here. These are years. So it's 10 on here. And we see that the initial of $100,000 by 10 years, it turned into $162,889.42 with an interest rate of 5%. And why is it like that? Because when that 5% is gained on the 100K, right, and that money is left there, right, then that 5% is added to the 105K, and so on and so forth. So once this money is left in and not taking out in the, as it pertains to savings, right, it increases and it compounds. So compounding means it stacks on top one another, right? So that is the example here. So a lot of us have lived more than 10 years, right? And if we had these principles, not exactly with $100,000, you don't have to start with 100. This is just an example right here. But if we had these basic principles, right, we would have been financially in a better place than we are now. However, those years have passed. Now, it will be crazy for you to keep up the same bad habits and expect a different outcome. So now that we are learning these habits, people say knowledge is power. I say the application, the proper application of that knowledge is power, because people could know a lot of things. If you don't implement it, it's, it's not going to help you. It is not going to help you if you do not implement it. Implementation is important and important. So I have a formula here, and to some people it's looking kind of crazy. However, it is a very, very simple formula, All right. And this PowerPoint will be on Freedom University for all the Freedom University members. And again, the recording will be on YouTube. The PowerPoint won't be on YouTube, but the recordings will be on YouTube. And for anyone in Freedom University, for your What the Foundation, we will have the PowerPoints ready. So B, we see here, right? I have the explanation at the bottom. The B is the total amount, both principal and compound interest. The P, of course, is the principal, which is the initial amount that you started with in this account. Or as it pertains to a mortgage, if you signed a mortgage for $100,000, right? At the end of that mortgage, fulfilling of your um uh fulfilling of your contract with that lender, it would not be $100,000 because they will charge interest, right? And I believe the interest right now is around 7%, 7.25, 7.5. It's somewhere around that area there. And this is also another side note for anyone who's looking to purchase. Right now, it is a buyer's market, meaning that there are a lot of opportunities for people who want to purchase a home because there's a lot of people trying to sell their home because they were not ready because they didn't take our courses. So I highly suggest you to share the Home Ready course. Um, and they were not ready for the increase in insurance, right? The increase in cost of living and the increase in taxes that's based on the fair market value of wherever you're living. And R right here is the annual interest rate, right? And N in this formula is the frequency of the compounding period, and T is the term of the loan. So each one of these stands for exactly what it stands for. So B, it means both principal and interest. P means principal. R means rate of the interest. N, right, is the frequency, right? And T is the terms of the interest, right? So one of the key things we have to understand is that there's a rule of 72. And 72 is a method of estimating how long it takes to double an investment at a specific interest rate by dividing 72 by the annual rate. For example, right, we have 6% interest rate, which means that it takes 12 years to double the investment. This rule is useful because it's used for personal finance, business, and people that makes policies. They use the rule of 72. So it's very important for you to understand what rule they're using so you will understand how it works. So I have an example here so you're not left confused. Okay, so we're back with the $100,000, right? Earning an interest rate of 5%. And based on this formula, it's going to show how long it would take. So B, remember from the previous slide, means both the principal and the interest. Again, principal is the initial amount or the initial amount of the loan, the initial amount that you put into the account, right? So we have B meaning both. And then it's 72 divided by the interest. And in this example, right here, it's 5%, right? So based on the $100,000, don't be scared, because I feel like people are going to be scared because all of this math. And this is so basic. They made it basic so people have an easy way of understanding how it's done and how to do it. Especially if someone is saying, oh, let's say they're in their 20s and they said, oh, I want to retire by this and this and this age. This formula here lets you know how to attain that, right? So, based on the previous example of $100,000 with a 5% interest rate, we see that it will take 14.4 years, which is 14 years and 4 months, to get to double your money. And that is if, this is the key here, that is if you are not adding more money. Now, when you add more monies to the account, now this flies exponentially. It accelerates the growth. But we're keeping it basic. We're keeping it basic so everyone can understand. We're keeping it basic. So this is the principal amount of $100,000, 100K, and they want to know how long it will take to double their money. And it's showing, based on the rule of 72, that it will take 14 years and 4 months, assuming that you are not accelerating the growth by adding extra monies in addition to the interest that you're getting on your money. Hopefully, I'm hoping that makes sense, because I said a whole lot right there. I said a whole lot. So that is how it works, assuming that you are not adding extra money. So once you add extra money to this $5,000, oh, this is gonna add up even higher, 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 and the time frame is going to get shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. So that's how it is. That's the power of compounding and doubling, the double time, to find out how long would it take for me to double this money. And a lot of us would not, might not, I won't say would not, might not start with 100,000. They might start with less. And the principle, the rule of 72 still works. So it lets you to get discipline and to know how much more money to add to your account. Okay. So this impacts the interest rate, the impact of interest rates. Okay. Your money can grow exponentially with compound interest. So in my last month, I was talking about saving, right? And I suggested for people to put their monies into a saving, especially your emergency fund, since you're putting money aside for emergencies. Have your money doing something. Do not put it into a checking account that does not get interest, because the same money you put in is the same money you're going to get out. And it does not change the fact that the bank is using your money to make money. And even though you put it in a high yield savings and they're not giving you that much money, right, back, at least they're giving you something, because you are trying to understand and start new habits. Now, when we go, and I'm not gonna go on here, but I talk about investing and stuff. I have that in Freedom University, which is a total different area, because if you want higher interest, there are other avenues for that that we're not going to talk about on here. So this is the impact of the interest rate. So the interest rate is very important. So when you're looking for a high yield savings account and you're looking for a mortgage rate, right? Interest is extremely important. With mortgage, the lower the rate, the better. With savings, the higher the rate is better. Okay, so it is important for us to save for long-term issues. One thing you're going to realize, if you haven't yet, life has a lot of curveballs and has a lot of things that pop up financially, in addition to everything else that pops up that's not financial. So financially, there are a lot of things that pops up. It is inevitable. So it is best to prepare for it. Like I tell people, I hope for the best, but you prepare for the worst. Okay, so we're going back with $100,000. We're staying consistent with 100,000. Okay, so you have 100K, earn an interest of 5%. But right here, you put money in every paycheck or every FAFSA if you're in college, or you're not even to the point of having a job, but you don't want to live the way how you're currently living or you see your parents living financially, as in financially strapped. So you ask, because if you're under a certain age, you need a parent to open the custodial account. Okay, so you open an account, right? And you decide that you are going to put money in every paycheck if you're working age, every FAFSA in case you might not be working but in college full time, and you get the over amount, the surplus amount from your FAFSA after classes are paid, books are paid, if you're living on campus, meal plans are paid, all that um stuff that you had to pay for in college. Or you're not in any of those. You're still in school and you get an allowance from your parents. It affects your long-term finances greatly. So, even though it might be less than 100,000, don't be discouraged by the 100,000. I'm trying to stay consistent with the amount of the money so it could be easily understood. So you could put any amount of monies here to do the doubling of that money. So we're assuming that interest yield does not decrease and the number of years to double will decrease. So for example, for anyone who has a high yield savings account right now, um, if you've had it for a while, you might have received messages from the banks, if it's in a bank account, um, that the interest on your monies have decreased based on the market. So based on the market, the bank um, increases the interest and they decrease the interest that they're going to give you on your money that you have in their bank. So we are assuming, right, that the interest yield does not decrease. And I'm going to warn you right now, the interest yield did decrease because I've had high yield savings for several years now, and they have decreased. So this is us taking note of that information. Okay. So based on this here, and based on the fact, right, that you are not adding money to these accounts, because some people, okay, when I worked in the medical field, I used to be a contract worker in the hospitals, right? And when I was a contract worker in the hospitals, I used to get paid every day, right? So every day I work, I used to get paid. And some weeks I would work 6 days a week, right? Even though I was and still am a registered nurse, I still have an active license, CPR, all that stuff. I still have all that. Even though um I was getting paid as a contract worker, because that's the kind of contracts I signed up for. Let me give you a note also. When you get paid every day, you tend to pay it higher in taxes. So let me just ease that in also while I'm saying that. Um, when I get paid, because usually um registered nurses, and that's what I am also, registered nurses work three 12-hour shifts, and that's considered full time. However, some nurses, like me, when I was younger, would not only work the three 12-hour shifts, but would work um, 14 to 16, because sometimes the nurse that's relieving you has an emergency, has to call out, and then the hospital has to find another nurse to replace that nurse that called out, and that happened to be the nurse that was relieving you. So you end up working a lot more hours, and also working more days. So in this scenario, I'm using myself as an example. When I was nursing before, right now I'm not doing that. However, before, in those cases, if someone get paid every day they work, and they work 5 to 6 days a week, this example that I'm giving here would change drastically. The doubling time, right, will decrease, and I mean the doubling time will come up, because you start at 100,000, and right here, let me just go to the 15 years. Even though it's 14 years or 4 months, I don't have the months on here. So let's go past a little bit past the double to 7,800 more than the 200,000. This would decrease, this time frame of 15 would move up, not the amount, the years will move up, and it will get shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter, until at this time of 15 you could get to the point of a half a million, 3/4 of a million, even 1 million. It depends on how diligent, consistent you are willing to put monies in to your account. So it is very, very important that we understand that we need to be disciplined and consistent. And if you missed last month's video about how to save, because I'm talking about compounding interest now, and I already went over savings last month, please go to your What the Foundation's YouTube and look at that video, because we talked about saving and putting money in different accounts last month. Okay, so that is what we're covering here. And again, I want to encourage you guys to sign up for the Home Ready. This, like I said, it is a series. It covers foreclosure. It covers home purchasing. It covers renting. It is literally everything home, and it stacks on top of each other. One thing builds on the other. One thing builds on the other. I mean, we go over every single aspect as it pertains to home buying, and it is a donation of $5 for each of these. And again, the only people that gets the recordings and the PowerPoint are the people that sign up. So if you're not able to sign up, I mean, if you're not able to attend at this specific time, June 30th at 6:30 p.m., please sign up, because you can always, 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 always look at the video and the PowerPoints later. And again, we are a ministry, and we do these events for free on the 15th. And I encourage everyone, if you can, to donate so we can continue to do these free events. And also we go in communities and do these events, because we have found that a lot of seniors do not want to do virtual, so we actually have to physically go and do events in person for seniors, and it is highly requested, and I want you guys to be a part of that for us to be able to continue to go in the communities for the events. I have two different forms of donation here: PayPal, and this previous one is Zeffy, right? So some people are not familiar with Zeffy, so they prefer PayPal, and some people prefer Zeffy because Zeffy does not have a fee when people donate. PayPal, we have to pay a fee. So when you donate through PayPal, PayPal takes out a percentage of the money donated for themselves for processing fees, but Zeffy takes out nothing. That's why I have two different donation tabs here. I want to thank you guys